Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, you better buckle up when it comes to financial economy kind of stuff, because it's very possible it's going to get really bad soon. Jim Cramer, which some of you know who I'm talking about, he's that guy that gets on TV yelling and screaming, and pretty much every prediction and everything he says about the economy, the exact opposite happens. He made a statement just in the last day or so that the recession is over. The fear of a recession is over, and that the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell has successfully caused a soft landing to the economy, and that it's all over. Everything's fine now, which generally means that it's about to get really, really bad based on the historical records of his predictions. So just thought I would throw that out there. You should probably buckle up. The Wall Street Journal is saying that the West, the United States and Europe, should take in millions of refugees from Gaza and the Palestinian people. Yeah, millions. I mean, there's not millions and millions in Gaza, but according to the Wall Street Journal, which is just a mouthpiece for the big, the big system, is saying that we should take on lots and lots more people. I mean, we might as well. I mean, my goodness, we got like, 8-10 million people a year coming across. I mean, that's not the official numbers, but we all know that it's probably substantially more than the official numbers. If they're saying 250 to 300,000 a month they're coming across, there's probably more than that. Xi Jinping is in the United States. He came to California, San Francisco, meeting with Joe Biden and a bunch of other leaders, and it just looked like the king was coming home. Chinese flags flying everywhere, and San Francisco was beautiful. Yes, they kicked out all the homeless people and sterilized. They had to just, take big old bomber planes full of bleach and just pour, not really, but it was just about that bad to get it all cleaned up because they wanted it to look pretty for Xi Jinping. I mean, we can't have it look pretty for Americans, but for some some communist dictator, we got to clean it up and look good. It's kind of a joke that the only way to get the streets cleaned is to it's communism. I don't know. A lot of other stuff going on in the news that's always crazy. Massive protests over the weekend in Washington, D.C. This time it was pro-Israeli protest or support, or whatever you want to call it, and just a lot of other stuff it's crazy. It's crazy all the time. And one of the few things that helps keep my sanity, because I talk about all this crazy stuff all the time, is the fact that I can disconnect from it and focus on real important things. Outside of my family, of course. I mean, that's the most important in my life, other than, my relationship with the Father. But the real important things, and that's community. I call it, my wife and I, we call it kingdom work. We call it kingdom work because it's bringing the remnant together. And I made a little video yesterday. I'm worn out today, I'm telling you. I'm tired. We did some medical training, did about 14 hours straight. Ran a couple of classes through within our group, got some excellent stuff done. Even did a little bit of training with some small children. My wife and I and my family, we did some babysitting, some child care, so that some of the people that had children could run through this training. It's really good stuff. We have a top of the line instructor in our group that's just his whole career has been medical training. And so it was really exciting because we're not just doing this so that people can get, first aid, first response, that kind of stuff. It's that we're trying to build out our own self-sustaining, as much as possible, medical system within our group, because that's something that you should all be thinking about when it comes to medical, whether it's emergency medicine, different types of care, like family care and geriatric care and surgical care and general practice, all these different types of treatments and styles of medicine that we're all used to, it's all connected to a system, right? It's all connected to a system that's heavily dependent upon a supply chain. It's heavily dependent upon everything functioning. And it's also heavily dependent upon government control. And so at some point, many of those things I just mentioned, or all, may not be functioning. The supply chain, grid, or just the fact that you have access to it. I mean, think back 3 years ago when everyone was getting bonker crazy about, that thing. How many stories in the news did you hear about people being refused medical care because they didn't have this? There were people that were being refused organ transplants. I mean, things that you and I would never imagine hearing in a free country, right? We heard it. How much worse is it going to get? I mean, if it was that bad the first time around, as things worsen, and I'm not talking about just, widespread diseases and stuff, I'm talking about government control, at what point will it be that you just don't have access to that medical system because you don't have the proper paperwork or the proper digital ID or the proper things being put in your body? Could it happen? Probably a few years ago, most of us would have said, oh no, that's pretty extreme. That may be further on down the road. And then yet just 3 years ago, we saw people being turned away, medical care being turned away because, well, they weren't complying with, the social norms and the government edicts. So we have to think about that when we're thinking about our medical care, because that is very important. Most of us, and especially if you have some type of community or MAG, you have people that are young, maybe, childbirthing age. You have children, they get injured. You're doing a lot of work, especially if everything collapses. You're going to be more prone to injury because you're going to be doing more physical labor. You have older folks, people that are sick, people that have various medical problems, and how are you going to take care of those? I mean, we're just going to let, things just fall away and only the strong survive and the weak perish? Or are we going to pull together as a fellowship of like-minded believers and try to do our best to take care of them? Well, so see, that's kind of our plan. And so we are planning ahead now and trying to build out, kind of our own little medical system here. I mean, of course, it's not going to include everything that, all of you folks are probably used to going to your big fancy medical clinics, but it's more than just learning basic emergency medical care, because what you have to realize is no matter how good and how great you can become, say, let's just say an EMT or even a paramedic, that level of care is really only meant to just kind of stabilize someone. It's meant to kind of triage them, get them the basic care so that the person is stabilized so that they can move on up the supply chain or the food chain to higher up and more advanced care to actually take care of the problem. And so, take, for instance, tourniquets. Tourniquets have become very popular over the last several years, and everyone pushes that you should have a tourniquet and that you should know how to use them. You should carry multiple tourniquets. You should practice, and I advocate all that too. Yesterday in the class, I was teaching people to, just on a regular basis, when you're sitting around doing nothing, how fast can you deploy your tourniquet and get it on? Can you get it on in 45 seconds? Because you've got 45 seconds to a minute before you lose consciousness and die if you're by yourself and you have an arterial bleed. But here's the thing, folks. Once you get that tourniquet on, and maybe it's done its job, you stopped the bleeding and you're not going to die at the moment, what do you do after that? What's the next step? Well, the next step would be to get that person to a hospital, because if it truly is a wound, and whatever the wound is that would cause an arterial bleed, you're pretty much down to just two solutions at this point. To get them to a hospital to have it surgically fixed, because most likely, if it's an arterial bleed, a stab wound, or a bullet wound, or a tear, or whatever it is, it's going to need some kind of surgery to repair that artery. Or eventually the person's going to die anyways. They're going to die because gangrene sets in, or whatever it is. Because if you don't have a solution to fix the problem that's causing the arterial bleed, putting a tourniquet on it is literally just a Band-Aid. I mean, it's a very large and expensive and, you know, important Band-Aid. But if you don't have the next stage set up, the person's not going to make it. And so what is your plan when the current medical system is not available, or it collapses, or for, you know, whatever the problem is? And so that's what we're doing, is we're thinking ahead of, you know, can we gather the medical people and the medical equipment in place to do that? And so it's not all fixed, and even if it was, I'm not going to give you all the details. But it's definitely something for some of you that have bigger groups, and I say big, I don't mean numbers, but just groups, to start thinking about this. What do you do in your groups if things are collapsed for a longer period of time and people start getting older, or there are old people and maybe they need certain types of care? You know, childbirth, mental health, that's going to be a problem. Do you have things in place, or at least are you thinking about that and trying to develop as best as you can, based on your size and scope and you know what you can do to try to fix these things and try to come up with solutions? So that's kind of what we're doing. You know, this training yesterday and the training that we've done in the past is really just another puzzle piece in this big picture. You know, it's not just hey, anyone want to come and get some advanced first aid training, here you go, now you're good. No, it's a stepping stone to bigger and better things. And so a lot of the people that went through yesterday have committed to continue on their training, to move on up the line, and that way they will be more capable of working with some of the more advanced trained people that are in our group. So medical is very important, but there has to be a bigger solution to just slapping a tourniquet on it. You know, learning how to pack a wound. Those are extremely important things, but you have to kind of move up. It's the same way with the supplies. Having a first aid kit is great, because in the moment, if it's properly, you know, there and you know how to use it, it can save a life. But then what do you do when you run out of that? That's why, you know, we also incorporate into our training, you know, what type of medical supplies do you store, and how to buy them in bulk. We incorporate, you know, natural ways, the things that you can include naturally. If you're out in the field and something happens, along with your first aid kit, what things in nature, you know, are there certain herbs that you can use? Is there a certain plant that you can use to help stop the bleed? You know, how do you set, you know, splint a leg in nature? Things like that, kind of more on the wilderness first aid. So we're incorporating all of that, because again, we're not just planning for someone becoming injured. We're planning for someone that may be injured or sick and there not be an available medical system. And so I would encourage you folks that are working on your groups, your mags, whatever it is, to start thinking down that path. It's a big scope, and it's a big thing to tackle. And we've been trying to tackle it for months, and we've just decided we're gonna, you know, consume this elephant like anyone would consume an elephant, one bite at a time. So it was very exciting, very tired. Like I said, I think I was there about 17 hours straight, you know, setting up ahead of time, cleaning up after, but a very, very good day, and looking forward to many more. And thank you to the instructors that we had. They did an excellent, excellent job. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order. You need to be doing some kingdom work. Kingdom work. You know, it's more than just the spiritual. I mean, that's important. The spiritual is the most important. But we have to incorporate the physical and the mental into that, to get our houses in order and to prepare ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.